Guys, breaking news that 5 people have been shot near a bridge in Maryland. And, oh, wait, never mind. This happens all the time. 5 people were shot near the Peace Cross Memorial in Bradensburg, Maryland, Friday afternoon while leaving a nearby funeral, according to the Bradensburg Police Department. Chief Tyrone Collington said all of the victims were alive, but the extent of their injuries is not known. The shooting happened just before 12:30 p.m. in the 4300 block of Bradensburg Road near the intersection with Annapolis Road. Collington said the 5 people who were shot were leaving a funeral at Fort Lincoln Cemetery when at least one person in another vehicle started shooting at their vehicle. Don't worry, media, I got this one for y'all. There's nothing to see here. You're not going to be interested in that. Now, you want to take those 5 people shot and add them to your mass shooting category, because that's certainly going to help you boost some membership numbers on the anti-gun movement side and folks like that, and stoke a little fear and sell a couple of ads on your websites and your news report later tonight for those local news affiliates. But outside of that, nobody nationally cares, right? The media doesn't care. Nobody on the wacko far left anti-gun movement, they don't give a rip about this. Again, they like the numbers because it certainly inflates the numbers, but do they really care? Nah, they don't care. It's a gang-related shooting. This is not even what I would normally call your conflict shooting. This is a gang shooting. And the funeral that they were likely at, they probably were putting somebody else in the ground at that funeral that was shot just like this. But the media doesn't want to talk about this because this is one of those kind of acceptable shootings for them. If it weren't for conflict shootings, and more specifically in this case, gang-related shootings, then the numbers wouldn't be high enough to make a big deal out of them. Remember how the media came out and said that, guns now are the #1 means of death for children. They weren't telling you that they were including 17, 18, and 19-year-old children in that number. But that's how they arrive at this number. If they took out these types of shootings that are acceptable by the left is okay with these shootings. And I'll tell you why in a minute. If they took these out, the numbers would be paltry. There's not a, quote, mass shooting epidemic, and there's no gun epidemic out there. Now, the reason why they're okay with these kind of shootings, and I'm talking about your politicians, and all politicians for that matter, not just Democrats, but mostly your far wacko leftists on the anti-gun movement side, they like these numbers. They don't bother them. They can't relate to these numbers. And I'll tell you why. Like I've stated before, your normal rampage shooting where you have some nutbag that's hopped up on some kind of drugs or something like that, that was abused, bullied, just something wrong with them, and they go indiscriminately try to shoot as many people as they can. Again, guys, that's normal places that we would be, and that happens out of nowhere. That's the kind of shooting that scares people. That's the kind of fear that the media and the wackos on the far left want to stoke, because that draws us in, because we can picture ourselves in those places. These types of shootings like this, let me tell you something. The anti-gun movement, who celebrates these kinds of shootings quietly behind closed doors, they wouldn't have been at these funerals. You're not going to hear a peep out of Joe Biden or any other politician about this senseless act of gun violence. Now, again, they'll include the numbers whenever they pad those numbers and get them piled up. But as far as specifying this particular shooting, you ain't going to hear nothing about it. You know how whenever there's an actual rampage shooting, not a conflict or gang shooting like this, you know how you always hear, always, I don't care how small it is, if it's not conflict related and not gang related, if this were at a 7-Eleven and some guy just indiscriminately just tried to shoot people, if this were at a school or a church, you would hear the president has been briefed on the shooting. Do you think the president has been briefed on this shooting? Be honest. And I know there's a bunch of the left-leaning wackos who follow me. They're big fans of mine. They follow me all the time. They're always in my comment section down below. And I welcome you because you help me boost that algorithm. Be honest with yourself. Tell me in the comment section down below. Do you think President Biden has been briefed on this shooting? Do you really believe that? Speak truthfully now, because I want you to expose yourself for being a liar and being a fool. Because you know the president has not been briefed on this. Because they don't care. Because again, if you break this down and explain to people how this happened, at a funeral or right after a funeral, driving down the road on the interstate, two opposing factions and gangs shooting at each other, me and you go, huh, the only real threat that would have been for me is if I had been driving down the same road, highway, or interstate. Other than that, it don't affect me. I would have never been anywhere these fools are anyway. So nobody else is really intimidated by these kinds of shootings except for gangs and other people who have conflicts with other factions and groups of people. That's why it matters. It absolutely matters. These people don't really want to stop these shootings. I do. I know, and people are going to disagree with me, and I'm sorry. I'm going to have to put this out there. I have to believe that out of all these people who get shot in these conflict and gang-related type shootings, I have to believe somewhere in there, there's for sure innocent bystanders, for sure. But there had to have been somebody good in there that could have contributed to society in a positive way somehow. It could have been the next good engineer, the next heart surgeon. I'm not saying all these people are that. Please, please don't hit me with that kind of bullcrap. I know we ain't dealing with carloads of brain surgeons here. But you have to believe at some point somebody just wound up with that wrong crowd. You know, it's tough growing up, tough being a teenager and all that kind of stuff. Not a child. I don't consider a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old a child. It's teenagers, young men. But it's tough. And I know there's peer pressure. And sometimes these guys just find themselves, sometimes, and I say a very small percentage of them, find themselves with that wrong crowd. I have to believe somewhere along the line we have lost somebody who would have been a major contributor somewhere. Might have been a good school teacher. Might have been a mentor. Might have been someone who corrected their life. You know, any of these guys in these gangs, there's tons of guys in gangs who correct their lives and move on to be a better life, live a better life, and they're mentors to these young men in these inner city communities and other communities in general. So I have to believe we've lost somebody of value along the way. Now, I don't have much respect for the vast majority of these people in these conflict type shootings because they chose to be in those situations. But that's why the media and the wackos on the far left don't care about these shootings. Because, honestly, in many cases, it ain't their friends. So they don't care. And they would have never been in those places either, so they can't relate to those things. So it's a meaningless death. It's a meaningless shot to them when that person gets shot. Doesn't matter to them. Again, all they care about is applauding the fact that you are adding to the numbers that help them sell memberships to their anti-constitution little clubs.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
It's over!